In this series of videos, I'm going to show you how to bring your sketches to life in 3D using Blender. In this video, we will be modeling the second character in our sketch and applying some basic materials. I recommend watching part 1 if you haven't already. If you're feeling lazy, the final Blender files will be available on my Patreon. In future videos, we will set up lights and cameras, cover render settings, as well as some basic post-processing in Photoshop. So let's jump in. Let's move on to the other character, and I think maybe let's hide Carl because he might get in the way. So let's create a new collection. Call this one Linda. She looks like a Linda maybe. Duplicate the head of Carl, but drag it into Linda. Okay, so we've got Linda's head here. Let's just name them as we go along now. I'm just going to move it into place. Create a cube for the arms. Grab this side of it, bring it to here, grab this side of it, bring it all the way to here. In the drawing, her arm is like behind his, but her head is in front of his, which doesn't really make sense. So what I can do instead is I'll make the head and the arm behind. So let's add some loop cuts to the arm, and we're going to hide Carl for now. Let's name this cube body and add a bunch of loop cuts. Let's say that, because now we know we can just bring this up for the neck. Okay, extrude this down. Add some more loop cuts. Doesn't have to be exactly right, that's the thing. Move this across. Whoa. I think maybe we need to bring some of these up a bit. So I'm just going to box select, bring it up. So add a subdivision, add a loop cut, sort out the elbows like we did last time, sort out the neck, create a cube. Something like this. Make it slightly less on the Y. Grab these two edges. Bevel by pressing Ctrl B. Then use the scroll wheel to add more bevel. And then if we also added a bevel modifier. Something like that. Now if we shade this whole thing smooth. I think that's the kind of shape we're going for. Okay, we bring it to the center of the body. Like the body should be in line with the head, really. Set on proportional editing. Grab this now, move this forward. Then obviously this would have to come out as well. I see it's screwed up all that stuff at the top. But that might be okay because we can reset that afterwards. Now let's fix some of these. I think if we turn off proportional editing, now we can go through and try and fix some of these issues. Like these should be rotated more in line. I think this just needs to be rotated a little bit and brought back that way. Same with this one. That's looking okay, and then what we can do is, this is all screwed up, and I want to delete vertices. Yeah. Add a face, bring it out again, add some more loop cuts, then that's straight again. I think that's looking okay. Alright, we're going to do the eyes now. So circle, rotate by 90 degrees, bring it into position, go back into wireframe mode, position it. Let's press F to fill it with a face. There we go, F. See, now it's a circle. We filled it with a face. Let's do the eyelashes now. I think curves again are the best option. So what we will do is we will possibly grab a curve from Carl here, and we will bring it over to do the eyelashes here. And we will decrease the depth because eyelashes are probably thinner. And we will just reposition these handles like this. Duplicate it, reposition, duplicate it again, reposition. Alright, we got some eyelashes there. Okay, we're going to add a taper object. Okay, so we'll create a new curve. Call this curve taper. Click on one of these lashes, add our curve as the taper object. Now you see here, the position in one of the axes, the position in the y-axis determines the thickness at each end, right? So if I just bring all of these forward a bit, to like here. Okay, now you can see better. So for instance, if I bring this one back, you can see now, look, the edge. So we want this side of the curve to be thicker, and this side of the curve to be at zero in the x, or 0 in the y, sorry, which is exactly what it is. Which means it's going to taper off to like 0, essentially. And now we can just add this curve as the taper object for each one. Taper, taper, taper. And this is not also non-destructive because now we can go and change the taper for all of the hairs at the same time whenever we want. So look, if we wanted to make them thinner, thicker. We're going to try and do some of the hands. Create a cube. And move it into position. Something like this. I'm going to disable this drawing for now so we can look behind. Now we're going to create a loop cut here, and then we're going to create 4 loop cuts like this. So now we can extrude here, and these will be our fingers. You have to extrude them separately or it's going to extrude them as one thing. Bring them slightly out just so we can see where they are. Add a subdivision surface modifier, which will immediately make it look a bit better. Increase the subdivisions, shade smooth. Bring this edge like this. And then if we add some loop cuts for the fingers, just in the center. Still think her fingers look too short in comparison with the rest. Fine, let's try select this. And now we can maybe bring this out a bit. Okay, the fingers are too fat, obviously. Nothing wrong with fat fingers, but for this particular design. If we scale the fingers like this loop cut behind doesn't scale either. If you turn on proportional editing and then use the scroll wheel to define the area that you're proportionally editing, we can select the x-axis, and then you can see it's scaling the other vertices behind it, the other edge loops, a bit less than the one that you're scaling actively. So let's do this. Make this thumb a little bit thinner. Yeah. We need to re-enable our sketch. Okay, let's just name these things. Eyelash 1, eyelash 2, eyelash 3, eyelash 4. Now we can grab all of these, duplicate, wireframe so we can see where the eye should be. Yeah, let's maybe create a collection within, I think within Linda, new collection, eye, right. So we don't have to select all of these eyelashes every single time. Eye, left. Do the pupils. Again, we'll probably just steal his pupils. That's kind of terrifying sentence to say, but we're going to do it. Linda, have his pupils. Duplicate this hand, and maybe we can reuse this for this other hand. Just need to flip it on the X. We'll do a proportional move, but we don't want the proportional editing to affect any of this other stuff. So let's hide this by pressing H. Then let's go back to solid mode. Grab this face, proportional editing, scroll wheel up, move it forward on the Y, move it even more forward on the Y. Let's grab like the middle of it, scroll up, and then we can make the whole arm come back on the Y. Then maybe we can literally rotate this whole arm. We're going to rotate the whole arm, bring it like this, move this like here. This is looking weirdly thin, so I'm going to bring it out a bit so it's a bit thicker. Same with this joint, same with this bit here. I think that looks okay. Let's re-enable the image. We need some feet. Okay, let's add a cube. Okay, here's what we'll do. It's got this side of the foot, we've got this side of the foot. This side of the foot is going this way, this side of the foot is going this way. This edge, we're moving along to there. This edge, we're moving along. Just gradually making it into the shape we want. Add a subdivision modifier. Just adding loop cuts to sort of tidy it up. Okay, so right, yeah, so this is going to be the skin, and we will probably make two separate skin colors for them because it's weird that they're exactly the same. Let's do a skin Linda. Copy it, paste. I don't know, for now let's just, okay, maybe that. Alright, so sorry, I wasn't talking about what I was doing there. She's got a bracelet in the drawing. I just kind of added a band here, but it looks a bit weird. Okay, let's take the pupil. Let's add some like spheres to the band, and we'll add some colors and things maybe. Doesn't look terrible. Colors. Let's just add the red for now. Maybe a black bead. Add a mouth. Okay, make her mouth slightly longer. The 3D, it's always funny when you like just turn it and you realize how everything's completely off. Eye left, eye right. See, we created these earlier. Pupil should be in eye right. Pupil should be in eye left. Select objects. Okay, what we could do is put them both in the same collection and just call it eyes. That way we can select objects, bring it back. And then also, just so these don't look completely weird, let's extrude the eyes a little bit so that the eyelashes aren't just going into nothing, and also so we can't see the back of the pupils. Definitely don't like this red for that band. Maybe the yellow. Okay, so we're going to add the dress texture now. First thing we're going to do is on our body, we're going to apply the Bevel Modifier because that's going to allow us to wrap that texture around our body a lot easier. So to do that, we come over to the Bevel Modifier, hit the drop down, press apply. So now we're going to unwrap our mesh before we add the dress texture. So if you just press Shift, Alt, and click this loop select. Just coming to wireframe mode so you can see what I'm doing. And then I'm going to uncheck this one edge here. Then I'm going to right click, mark seam. So now if you click off, you should see these red lines, which is where the seams are. If we open up a new window, come over to the UV editor, press A on your mesh here, press U, and then unwrap. And here you can see how it's unwrapped our mesh. So now we're going to add a texture to this body. So if we come over to materials, we're going to add a new material. Under base color, we're going to click this dot and add a image texture. Let's open. I made these textures in Illustrator. I'm not going to show you how to make them, but I will put this one up in the description for you to download for free. If you know Illustrator or Photoshop, feel free to go and create your own simple texture, however you want your dress to look. So I'm going to click that. For some reason our mesh has stretched a bit here, so I'm just going to scale it on the Y until it looks good again. And then I'm going to drag it into position. And then if we look around, looks good enough to me. And again, we're only going to be doing our render from the front, so as long as the front looks good, that's all I really care about. Now we're going to add some shoulder straps to the dress. So we're going to press Shift A, Mesh, Circle, 64 vertices, rotate it, move it, scale it down, keep positioning it until we get it to the right spot, like this. I'm going to press Shift and go to vertex mode, press A to select all the vertices, E to extrude, and then X to extrude them along the X axis. Then we will add a modifier, a solidify modifier, and then we can control the thickness here. Go back into edit mode and just press shade smooth, and let's position it until it looks correct. If you have a numpad, you can press the delete key to bring your camera to whatever you have selected. So we'll leave it there. We'll add the material. So we will add a bevel modifier and set it to 0.01. And then I'm going to Shift D to duplicate, bring it across, and just position it until it is correct. I will make the boot yellow and then rotate it slightly on the Z. Okay, so now to do the hair, we are going to duplicate her head, move it out a bit. We're going to create a cube. We're going to subdivide the cube by adding a subdivision surface modifier, crank it up to 3, and then apply it. Let's move it, scale it down. Now we want to make it a wavy shape, so we're going to press Tab to go into edit mode, go into wireframe mode, box select the top set of vertices, enable proportional editing up here, press G to move these, X to move them on the X, and then use the scroll wheel to influence the radius of the proportional editing. So we'll do around there. Let's come back into solid mode, scale this down, and then we want to line it up with the head. Let's grab the head that we duplicated, add a Boolean modifier, select this shape as our Boolean shape, click intersect. We actually want this to be flipped upside down. So now if we hide this cube, we can see this is like the hair shape that we're going for. Let's color it black. And going to material mode, so here's the shape. Okay, so now we're going to drag the hair onto our head. So let's move it over. So we've just selected the Boolean object and the hair object both at the same time. So we can drag it all over think we can actually drag the Boolean object a little bit to the right, then maybe hide it. Okay, so you can see some weird artifacts here, and I think the reason is because there aren't enough loop cuts, so I'm going to press Ctrl R, add some more loop cuts, click, and now let's go back, and you can see those artifacts have disappeared. So that's great. And we can actually maybe use this bracelet to hide the seam in the hand. That might be quite useful. So if we grab so the seam of the hand is now hidden mostly by the bracelet, which is much nicer. In the next video, we will be setting up lights and cameras, cover render settings, as well as some basic post-processing in Photoshop. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this tutorial. Make sure to subscribe and like the video. You'd really be helping me to get my content out to people's eye holes. Peace.